Good hello friends, my name is Melanie and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking all about my 2020 reading stats, and I'm actually really excited to be filming this video because it is the first year that I've actually done a really good job of tracking all of the books that I read. I got a little bit lazy towards the end of the year, but you know, that kind of happens. So I just went in and retroactively filled everything in, and honestly, it came together pretty well and I'm so excited to share it with you guys. So to kick it off, I read 106 books in 2020, which was such an accomplishment for me. I was so incredibly proud of myself, and quarantine definitely helped that out. And as we go through the reading stats, you can definitely see that my reading picked up once we hit quarantine. So I'm oddly thankful for the pandemic, but you know, to a degree. I read 22,615 pages. However, this can be slightly inaccurate considering the fact that I did listen to audiobooks pretty heavily. So even though I like physically marked down a book as read, I also was listening to it on audio. And with that being said, I had listened to 324 hours of audiobooks, and that seems like a lot. But when looking at the general overall statistics, my audiobooks were pretty on par with the rest of the books that I read. Jumping directly into the monthly stats, I read 7 books in January, 1 book in February, 3 books in March, 22 books in April, 15 books in May, 19 in June, 18 in July, 9 in August, 4 in September, none in October, 2 in November, and then 6 in December. So you can see that the majority of my reading was done in the summer, which kind of makes sense considering the fact that it was the time that not only myself but everybody had an abundance of time to read. I also was working full-time, but I was working from home, and I am no longer working a job that requires insane hours from me. It left me with a lot of great room to read, and I'm super excited to get into the rest of the books. So something I have to say I am really proud of is the fact that each month my rating did not drop below 3 stars. It was anywhere between 3.3 up almost to 4.1. And looking at that and averaging it for the entire year, I averaged about a 4 star. So I'm actually pretty pleased with the fact that I was able to read so many great books, although there were a fair share of 1s and 2s that I didn't love. Now diving directly into the big stats. Where to start? I guess since we're talking about ratings, I had 31 5-star reads, 10 4.5 stars, 35 4 stars, 9 3.5, 16 3 stars, oh my gosh, 2 2 stars, 2 2.5 stars, and 1 DNF. I actually didn't give anything a 1 star, which was really nice, but there were a bunch of 2s and 3s, but a lot of my ratings were in the 4s and up. So that is something that can mean 2 things. That means I either read some really great books or I really need to figure out my rating system. I read some pretty good books and I'm really pleased with that. And I think that like this year there were a lot of disappointments, but at the same time I read a good chunk of books that I really enjoyed. Moving into the demographic, nearly 60% of the books that I read were YA books, 30% were adult books, 7.5% were new adult books, and only 1.9%, so 2%, were middle grade books. This seems just about right to me, and the fact that I even have a middle grade book on there is kind of a surprise. That's not a demographic that I'm really into, and I'm finding myself reaching more for adult and new adult novels. So something that I'm really going to try and change is I want to make that YA percentage a little bit smaller because I do want to give more space to these adult and new adult novels. Moving into genres, we can see that the fantasy and graphic novel genres are really kind of taking over the graph. And something I realized in 2020 is I read so many graphic novels. I read 20 of my 106 books. And that's something that is only slightly disappointing because I want the majority of the books that I read to be books that are full-blown novels. I don't necessarily want a majority of my books to be those quick 90-page graphic novels because I want to give a lot of time to the physical novels that are on my TBR, as well as a bunch of new releases that are coming out. So in 2021, I'm going to make sure to read more full-blown novels because even when I'm looking at my poetry stats, I have 9 books that are poetry books, and I love them. However, those are also really quick and easy to fly through. I kind of use them as my in-between books, but I really want to try to read less graphic novels as a way to kind of bump up that number and make sure that I'm reading more full novels. You can also see that my nonfiction, mystery, and historical novels are really low in the categories that I've read, as well as classics. And these are ones that I kind of have a hard time with, so I can understand why they're not high up on that list, but I really want to kind of work towards making those genres a lot more of a priority in my reading. Now, as for the types of books that I've been reading, 32% were physical, 26% were audio, and 41% were ebooks. I think that ebook statistic does come from the fact that 20 books I read were graphic novels, and a lot of those I get from my library. So that was kind of, you know, skewing that a little bit. But I do think that my physical reads have gone up a lot in comparison to previous years, and I'm really, really proud of that because that means I'm getting a lot more of my physical TBR read. And finally, when looking at where all of these books came from, you can see that the bought section has 32.7%. 11% of those books were borrowed from my library. Something weird that happened with my stats this year is the difference between borrowed from the library and borrowed from a friend. So that's definitely something I'm going to fix, and something I didn't notice, unfortunately, until actually kind of looking at the statistics throughout the months. That is something that I'm going to fix. However, something that kind of blew my mind away was the fact that 25% of the books that I read were from Scribd. But I realized that towards the end of the year, I stopped using Scribd altogether. I maybe read like 2 books from Scribd towards the last quarter of the year. So I've officially canceled my subscription with Scribd, and I'm solely going to get audiobooks from my library and whatever I actually have left on Audible. And I think that is going to be a much better way of me spending my money. And if I want to sign back up for Scribd and I find that it's of value, awesome. But I found that I really wasn't using it, so I got rid of it. Also, another stat that I didn't realize that I was kind of keeping track of were books that I've reread. I'm not big on rereading books. I don't love doing it just because it's like I have so many more books that I need to read that are on my shelves that have never been read before, so why would I reread a book that I read before? I only actually reread 7 books this year, which I think is pretty good, and I reread them in order to continue the series that they were a part of, so I'm pretty content with that, and I'm not like super for or against rereading books. But if it happens, it happens. I'm not going to heavily focus on that for any of my goals. So moving into some of my 2021 goals, as you guys saw from my bullet journal plan with me, I have my goals for the year, and for the booktube/bookish side of it, I have 4 genres that I really want to get into this year, and those are classics, sci-fis, dystopian, and I don't know if it's considered as a genre but a demographic, but I have those adult and new adult novels like I said before. In terms of some miscellaneous goals, I am still on a book buying ban. I'm not allowing myself to buy any books until I have read through a significant chunk of my physical ones. If I want to read a book that I don't have physically, then I'll go ahead and just get it from my library, and that is perfectly okay with me. And I do acknowledge the fact that I am very privileged to have an incredible library system that has so many new releases coming in all the time. I also, speaking of new releases, want to really focus on getting my NetGalley percentage up. I was doing so good with this for so long, and then I just kind of fell off the wayside, so I'm really kind of pumped to get back into my NetGalley reading and get back into reviewing books the way that I'm supposed to. And finally, for BookTube, I have a few ideas that I really want to pump out this year, one of which being the series review that you guys saw me start last year, but that also requires me to finish the series that I've started. I also want to get a few more journaling videos up. I have been enjoying them quite a bit, and they always seem to get a really good response from you guys, so I'm really hoping to continue those as well. And finally, I wanted to start a new series where I clean up my Goodreads TBR. I've been doing this kind of on my blog willy-nilly over the course of the last couple of months. I feel like if I both film those videos and do the blog posts that correspond with them, not only is it more accessible for readers and for viewers, but it'll kind of keep me a little bit more accountable. So I'm hoping to do these at least once a month. So my camera stopped recording, but I want to film these at least once a month and have them kind of towards the end of the month. So hopefully you'll be seeing one of those soon in January, and then the blog post will be corresponding with that underneath it. So those are all of my 2020 statistics and some 2021 both bookish and creative goals. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what some of your goals are for 2021. I would love to hear them. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And until then, I was so sad because my camera literally died as I was filming the last few seconds of my video. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And until then, I'll catch you soon.